John had always been an ordinary guy, living in a small town, never dreaming of adventures beyond his simple life. He worked a typical 9-to-5 job at a local hardware store, spending most of his time behind the counter, helping customers with their projects. He had his routine, his friends, and a modest life, and he was perfectly content with it. But one day everything changed. It started with a strange, almost mystical letter. The envelope was unlike anything John had ever seen, embossed with symbols that he couldn't recognize, the paper thick and shimmering, like something out of a science fiction movie. There was no return address, no hint of who had sent it, but the name on the front was clear, his name, written in an elegant alien-like script. At first, John thought it was some kind of prank. Maybe it was a joke from one of his friends, playing off his love for sci-fi movies. But as he opened the envelope, a cold shiver ran down his spine. Inside, the letter was written in a language he could not understand, yet when he placed his fingers on the paper, it somehow translated itself into perfect English in his mind. The message was simple but chilling. John, we invite you to attend the feast of the Galactic Council, hosted by the Alien Queen herself. A meeting of great importance awaits you. Your presence is required. John's heart raced. An invitation to an alien feast. It sounded like something straight out of a fantasy novel. He had no idea what this meant or how it was even possible. But the letter was genuine. He could feel it in his gut. It wasn't a prank. His mind raced, questions tumbling over each other. Why was he being chosen? What could they possibly want with him? He was just an ordinary man. The letter went on to describe the details. A ship would come for him at midnight. He was to be prepared for an experience unlike any other, and he was instructed to leave his home and belongings behind. You will not need anything except yourself, the letter concluded. Despite his better judgment, John couldn't ignore the allure of the invitation. It was mysterious, exciting, and unlike anything he had ever experienced. His curiosity got the best of him, and without a second thought, he packed a small bag, just a change of clothes, and locked up his house. What did he have to lose? At midnight, just as the letter had promised, John found himself standing outside his home, staring at the dark sky. He wasn't sure what he expected, but he certainly wasn't prepared for what appeared next. A bright light, almost blinding, descended from the heavens, far larger than any aircraft John had ever seen. It hovered silently in the air, casting a strange glow across the street. The ship's sleek metallic surface shimmered as it moved closer. John's heart thudded in his chest as he took a hesitant step forward. His feet felt heavy, but his mind was racing with anticipation. The ship landed softly on the ground, and a ramp extended to the earth beneath it. A soft voice echoed from nowhere, but it was clear, calm, and inviting. Come, John, the Queen awaits. John hesitated for only a moment before stepping forward. The air around him seemed to pulse with energy, and the strange metallic scent of the ship mixed with the cool night air. As he walked up the ramp, the ship's interior revealed itself. Glowing walls, alien technology he couldn't comprehend, and a strange hum that vibrated through his body. The ship was alive, and it was beckoning him. Inside, the walls were alive with colors and patterns that shifted as though they had a mind of their own. John's eyes widened in awe as he moved deeper into the ship, guided by an invisible force. His fear had turned into fascination. He had never seen anything like it. The voice spoke again. You are the guest of honor, John. The Queen awaits you at the center of this great feast. John swallowed hard. He could barely believe what was happening. He was about to meet the Alien Queen, the most powerful being in the galaxy. What would she be like? What did she want with him? Was this an opportunity of a lifetime or a trap he was walking into? As the ship moved through space, John gazed out the large windows, watching the stars stretch before him. The Earth was now a distant speck, and he felt a strange sense of awe. He was leaving everything he knew behind, his life, his friends, everything he had ever understood, and stepping into the unknown. The journey seemed so real, like a dream he couldn't wake up from. But just as he was starting to feel a sense of wonder, the ship began to slow, and a deep voice reverberated through the halls. We are nearing the Queen's domain. Prepare yourself, John. John's heart raced once again. He was getting closer to the Queen, closer to whatever awaited him. The invitation had been like nothing he could ever have imagined, but the true purpose of this feast, and the role he would play in it, was still a mystery. Would he be treated as an honored guest, or was there something more to this than he had yet realized? The lights dimmed, and the ship's hum softened. He knew that in a few moments, he would be face to face with the most powerful creature in the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same again. As the ship descended towards its destination, The glowing lights of the alien world grew brighter and larger. The soft hum of the ship's engines filled John's ears, and despite the vastness of the stars outside the windows, the air inside the ship felt thick with anticipation. He could feel his heart racing, the unknown fate that lay ahead pulling him forward. The walls of the ship seemed to shimmer with every movement he made, as if the very structure was alive, watching him, waiting. The ship gently touched down on what looked like a floating platform surrounded by distant stars, a vast palace made of materials John had never seen before. It looked like something out of his wildest dreams. The architecture was sleek, polished, and alien in every way imaginable, almost ethereal in its design. Towering pillars stretched up into the sky, and strange glowing symbols moved across the walls, shifting like a constant flow of liquid light. "Welcome to the Queen's domain," the voice echoed through the halls again. This time, it was more commanding, less welcoming. It was as if the very atmosphere in the room was charged with a purpose, a sense of importance hanging in the air. John's legs felt heavy as he followed the voice's guidance. His mind was still reeling from the fact that he was standing on an alien world, inside a craft that defied all logic, and about to meet the queen of an entire galaxy. What kind of being could command such power? He didn't know, but he was about to find out. The ramp lowered slowly, and John took his first step onto the alien surface. His shoes made no sound on the smooth, glossy material beneath him, and he immediately noticed the way the ground seemed to pulse with an unnatural energy. It was a world unlike anything he had imagined, and yet it felt oddly familiar, like he had seen it before in his dreams. Or maybe he had imagined it in his wildest fantasies. He walked into a grand hall, his eyes scanning the space around him. The room was enormous, with walls that reached higher than any building he had ever seen. Alien beings of all shapes and sizes were gathered, some standing and talking in hushed tones, others sitting at long tables covered with foods that looked almost too perfect to be real. Their features were unique. Some had skin that glowed faintly. Others had sharp, angular features that looked almost sculpted, while others still appeared to be more insectoid in nature. There was a buzz of conversation, a hum of energy in the air, but none of the beings seemed to notice John's presence. As he moved further into the room, he saw her, the queen. She sat at the head of the largest table, draped in a flowing gown that shimmered like the night sky, its colors shifting with every movement she made. Her eyes glowed a soft, intense purple, and she was surrounded by advisors and dignitaries, all watching her with rapt attention. She exuded an aura of power that John could feel even from a distance. Her beauty was otherworldly, but there was something in her gaze that made John feel small, almost insignificant. She looked as if she could see right through him, into his very soul. The queen raised her hand, and the room fell into silence. Every eye turned toward her, and John could feel the weight of their collective attention pressing down on him. The room was still. All that could be heard was the soft sound of a distant wind, but even that seemed to be swallowed by the tension in the air. "John," the queen said, her voice like honey, smooth and rich, yet with an edge that made every word seem like a command. "You have come, and now the feast can begin." John's heart skipped a beat. This was it, the moment he had been waiting for, the moment when he would finally understand why he was chosen for this strange event. But as the queen's words settled over him, a sense of unease grew in the pit of his stomach. This wasn't just a social gathering, a feast among friends. There was something more to it, something he couldn't quite put his finger on. "Come," the queen gestured with a lazy wave of her hand, and a servant approached, bowing low before her. The servant was a tall, slender creature with long, flowing limbs and translucent skin. They held a silver platter filled with small, delicately colored spheres. John couldn't help but wonder what they were. "You must partake in the food," the queen continued. "It is essential to your understanding of what is to come." John hesitated for a moment, his eyes flicking between the queen and the alien food. The spheres on the platter shimmered, reflecting light in strange, mesmerizing patterns. There was no smell, no hint of flavor to guide him, just the pure, stark beauty of the food. Before he could protest or even ask any questions, the queen spoke again. "Do not worry, John. The food is safe. It is the first step in your journey." With a sense of apprehension, John picked up one of the spheres. As soon as his fingers touched it, he felt a jolt of energy, like a mild electric shock running through his body. He looked at it again, uncertain, but the queen's gaze was unblinking, unwavering, and he knew she would not tolerate hesitation. Taking a deep breath, John popped the sphere into his mouth. The taste was unlike anything he had ever experienced, sweet, sharp, and somehow metallic, all at once. He tried to swallow, but the sensation lingered, a strange warmth spreading through his chest and arms. His mind began to feel foggy, and for a moment, he wasn't sure if he was standing or floating. Suddenly, everything around him shifted. The walls of the room seemed to bend and warp, and the sounds of the feast faded into a deep, pulsing hum. The queen's voice echoed in his mind. "Now you will understand," she said. "You will see the truth." John's vision blurred, and the room around him seemed to dissolve. He felt as though he were falling, drifting through a void, his mind suspended between reality and something far more sinister. The feast was only just beginning, and John had no idea what he was about to face. John's mind was spinning as the strange, metallic taste of the alien food lingered in his mouth. His senses were clouded, and for a moment, everything seemed to blur together. Sights, sounds, and even the very air he breathed felt heavy, like he was submerged in water. His heart raced, but it wasn't from fear. It was from the overwhelming energy surging through his body. His vision flickered, the grand hall around him warping and shifting like a distorted dream. The queen's voice echoed in his mind, a calm and deliberate whisper that felt almost too real. "You can feel it, can't you? The change that has begun. The truth you have been chosen to witness." John's head snapped up, his gaze locking onto the queen, who sat at the head of the table, watching him intently. The alien food he had eaten had done something to him, something he couldn't fully grasp. His thoughts were no longer his own, and the weight of the queen's gaze felt like it was pressing directly into his soul. What have you done to me?" John managed to stammer, his voice shaking as the room around him seemed to pulse in time with his racing heartbeat. The queen didn't answer immediately. Instead, she rose from her seat, her gown shimmering with every step. She moved with an elegance that was both mesmerizing and terrifying, her presence commanding the attention of every being in the room. The feast had fallen silent, the other guests staring at her with expressions of awe and fear. John tried to stand, but his legs felt weak. He reached out to steady himself against the table, his vision swimming as if the very fabric of reality had been altered. "Do not resist, John," the queen said, her voice soft but firm. "This is not pain. It is the awakening of your true potential. You have been chosen, not by chance, but by design, and now you will understand why." John's stomach twisted. He had been brought here under the illusion of being an honored guest, invited to a feast by an alien queen. But now it was clear that there was something far darker at play. His mind raced as he tried to process what was happening, but it felt like the very fabric of his thoughts was being unraveled. The queen moved closer, her eyes glowing brightly in the dim light of the hall. "You see, John, humanity is not just a random species scattered across a small planet. No, you are part of a grand design, a cosmic plan that has been in motion for eons. Your planet is unique, and so are you. Your presence here is no accident." John shook his head, trying to clear the fog in his mind. "I don't understand. What do you mean?" The queen smiled, though it was a smile that didn't reach her eyes. It was cold, calculating, and filled with a deep, unsettling power. "Humanity," she continued, "is the missing key to unlocking the ultimate power of the universe. For centuries, we have sought a way to harness that power, and we have found it. You, John, are the key to unlocking it all." John's breath caught in his throat. He could feel his heart pounding louder now, as though his body was aware of the truth before his mind could fully grasp it. He looked around the room, his eyes wide with disbelief. The other alien guests were watching him, their expressions unreadable. "No," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "You're telling me you need me?" "Yes," the queen said, her voice dripping with a cold certainty. "Humanity, with all its flaws and contradictions, holds the secret to a power far beyond your understanding. And you, John, are the one who will unlock it. Your mind, your soul, your very essence will fuel it." John's thoughts were a whirlwind of panic. He had been brought here, not as a guest, but as a pawn in a cosmic game he couldn't even begin to comprehend. The queen's plan wasn't to honor him, it was to use him, to extract something from him, something that would change the course of the universe forever. The feast, the queen continued, was never for celebration. It was a ritual, a test, to see if you were worthy. Now we will proceed. You will help us unlock the ancient power that has been hidden from the rest of the universe. John's knees buckled, and he collapsed back into his chair. His mind was racing. He had no idea how to stop this, how to fight against the overwhelming force that was closing in on him. He felt a cold sweat break out on his skin. His body was screaming, begging him to run, but his mind was sluggish, weighed down by the mysterious energy that was coursing through him. "You have already started the process," the queen said, stepping closer, her voice softer now. The food you ate was the first step in awakening the dormant potential within you. Now you will see things as they truly are. You will understand the power of the universe, and you will help us wield it." John's vision blurred even further, and he felt a wave of dizziness wash over him. His mind was no longer his own. He could feel something shifting within him, something dark and alien, threatening to take over his body and soul. His thoughts became disjointed, his sense of self slipping away. The Queen's voice echoed once more in his mind, not just as a whisper, but as a command, as if her words were carved directly into his consciousness. "You will submit, John. You will embrace your destiny." As her words filled his mind, John felt a sharp, blinding pain in his chest, as if something was trying to break free from within him. The room spun violently, and for a moment, he wasn't sure if he was alive or dreaming. The Queen's plan had been set into motion, and now John was the key, whether he wanted to be or not. The feast was far from over. In fact, it had only just begun, and John realized with a sinking feeling that he was trapped in a nightmare that he couldn't escape from. John's body trembled, his hands shaking as the Queen's words reverberated in his mind. The weight of her revelation hung heavy in the air, and it felt as though the entire hall had closed in around him. The alien guests watched him silently, some with expressions of curiosity, others with a cold, calculating detachment. His heart hammered in his chest, each beat pounding louder in his ears. "You will submit, John. You will help us unlock the true power of the universe." The Queen's voice rang through his head once more, as clear as if she were standing right next to him. But something inside him snapped. The more the Queen spoke, the more he felt an instinctual surge within him, a force deeper than any physical pain he had ever known. It was something that could not be controlled, something that could not be manipulated. It was his will, his spirit, and it was not going to break. Not for her, not for any alien, and not for any power she thought she could control. John clenched his fists, his nails digging into his palms as he fought against the overwhelming force that sought to take hold of him. It was like a battle between his body and his mind. His legs felt weak, but deep down, he could feel a fire igniting within him. Humanity, the very essence of his species, was resilient, and no alien queen, no matter how powerful, was going to break that. "Enough," John muttered through gritted teeth, his voice barely audible at first. The Queen raised an eyebrow, her eyes glowing with amusement. "You think you can resist me, human? You are nothing but a vessel for the power we seek. You cannot escape your fate." But John was already rising to his feet. His knees were weak, but his determination was stronger than ever. He could feel his body fighting the effects of the alien food, the strange energy coursing through him. But he held on to one simple truth: the human spirit was unbreakable. No matter how much she tried to control him, she could not control the will that burned in his chest. "I am not a tool," he said, his voice growing stronger with each word. "You cannot use me. You can't take what's not yours." The Queen's expression faltered for a moment, her cold, calculating smile slipping. She was clearly not expecting resistance. "Foolish human," she whispered, her voice turning cold. "You think you can stand against me? Against all that we have achieved?" But as she spoke, John felt a surge of clarity. The fog in his mind began to lift, the foreign influence weakening. The Queen's plan to control him, to turn him into a vessel for their power, was nothing more than a game to her. But he wasn't just some pawn. He was human, and humans were not meant to be controlled. He took a step back, his eyes never leaving the Queen's. "I may not understand all this alien power, but I know one thing: you underestimate what it means to be human. To be free. To fight for something greater than yourself." For the first time, the Queen's confident demeanor cracked. The aliens around her shifted uncomfortably, as if they too sensed the change in the air. The power she had tried to harness, the control she had sought to impose, was slipping away, and John could feel the tide turning. "I won't be a part of your plans," John continued, his voice now steady, filled with the strength of his convictions. "I'll fight you with everything I have." The room was silent for a long moment. The Queen's eyes narrowed, and for a second, John thought she might strike him down right there. But then something unexpected happened. The Queen's expression softened, just slightly, and she gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. "You are a brave human," she said slowly. "I will give you that. But bravery alone will not save you." John didn't flinch. He wasn't afraid anymore. The power she thought she had over him had already begun to dissipate. He realized now that the true strength wasn't in the power she had, nor in the alien technology surrounding them. It was in him. It was in humanity itself, the ability to resist, to stand firm in the face of the unknown, to fight for freedom no matter the odds. John took another step forward, his gaze unwavering. "You'll see, Queen. Humanity isn't something you can control. We're not just a species. We're a force, and we'll fight for our place in the universe." The Queen said nothing for a moment, but John could see the shift in her eyes. There was doubt now, a crack in the confidence she had once exuded. It wasn't much, but it was enough. The Queen might have been powerful, but she had underestimated the power of a single human spirit. Then the Queen raised her hand, signaling her attendants to stand back. The power in the room seemed to waver, like a gust of wind shaking a fragile structure. John felt the foreign energy slip away completely, like an oppressive weight lifting from his shoulders. He was free. But this wasn't just about escaping her control. This was about something bigger. John had fought back, not just for his own freedom, but for the freedom of humanity. His resistance had shattered the illusion the Queen had created. No longer was he just a pawn in her game. Now he was a symbol of something greater, the indomitable will of humankind to fight for its right to live freely. The Queen stood still for a long moment, her gaze locked onto John. Her power was slipping, but she wasn't done yet. "You have won this round, human," she said, her voice low and threatening. "But do not think for a second that this is over." John's heart didn't race anymore. He wasn't afraid. He had already won. With the strength of his spirit, he had fought back against the most powerful being in the galaxy. And if he could do that, then there was nothing in the universe that could stop humanity from claiming its place in it. With a deep breath, John turned and walked out of the grand hall. His journey was far from over, but today he had proven one thing. The human spirit could never be broken, and that was a force even the Queen could not control.